It's either the turbine or us. If the turbine stays, we'll leave.
An ill wind blows in Falmouth, prompting the town to consider pulling down its turbines. Plus, Boston City Councilor Rob Consalvo hopes to follow Tom Menino's path to the mayor's office. And
she was the first of her class, built to dive deeper.
50 years after one of the Navy's worst accidents, Portsmouth remembers those lost on the USS Thresher. That's now on Greater Boston. Good evening. The town of Falmouth has been on the leading edge of renewable energy. It boasts 3 massive wind turbines, one owned by a private developer, 2 others by the town itself. But some neighbors say the machines make their lives miserable, and now Falmouth is on the verge of tearing them down. Adam Riley has more.
When Megan Amsler looks at the turbines that dot the sky over Falmouth, she sees the future.
The wind is blowing. They're taking advantage of a natural resource, an abundant renewable resource.
Amsler is a Falmouth resident who runs a local clean energy nonprofit. She says that in the fight against climate change, turbines like this are crucial.
We are not mining anything out of the ground. These, they represent clean technology.
But now Falmouth is having second thoughts. This week, Falmouth's town meeting is weighing a proposal to take down the 2 turbines owned by the town. The selectmen have endorsed that plan, thanks to complaints from neighbors like Neil Anderson.
First, there was a pressure in my head and my ears. I was rubbing my ears like there was water in my ears.
Anderson says that after a turbine went up near his home, he started feeling ill. Now the turbine has become a scourge, limiting his ability to work and making everyday life a trial.
Grinding my teeth, tinnitus, the truck backing up with his backup sound, it disturbs me. Conversation disturbs me, loud conversation.
Those symptoms aren't unique. Ed and Sue Hobart live near a third privately owned turbine. After it went up in 2010, Sue Hobart began waking up during the night, panicked and unable to sleep. She says pressure waves from the turbine were wreaking havoc with her inner ear and making her home uninhabitable.
That's a terrifying thing, when you realize your home has been made toxic, and it's your home, and you can't do anything about it.
Last year, after Sue Hobart was hospitalized for exhaustion, her husband said enough. He cashed out the couple's savings and bought the cheapest house he could find in Bourne.
Leaving here was heartbreaking for us, that it was just, we didn't do it because there was some other option. There was no other option for us. We had to leave. We had to save ourselves.
Megan Amsler says she's sympathetic to the Hobarts and Anderson. But she also says the complaints have come from just a few dozen neighbors, and she warns that taking down Falmouth's turbines could be a setback for wind power.
I know that no community has ever taken down a wind project. It would then set the precedent in other communities that a small vocal minority of people can get things removed.
But Anderson says Amsler might think differently if she lived where he lives.
Come on down here and feel it. Come on down to my house, stay for an hour, stay for 2 hours. Come on and feel it, and then we'll talk.
All right, and with me here are Megan Amsler of Cape and Islands Sell-Reliance Corporation and Eleanor Tillinghast of the group WindWise. Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
So, Megan, have you taken up Neil Anderson's offer? Have you actually gone down and stayed for hours and hours, or maybe overnight?
I've not gone down. I've gone into the driveway. I've spent a lot of time actually up at the wastewater treatment facility along Blacksmith Shop Road, which is the road that they live on. So,
and when you're there,
I'm there for periods of time. I have been at the site for many times.
You said in the piece that this would set a precedent. Well, there are other towns that are considering taking the turbines down. I mean, Scituate is also having town meeting to consider it as well. So apparently the problem is more widespread than we thought.
I guess the point that I was trying to make is that really when you start to look at renewable energy that needs financing, a bank is not going to consider loaning money for renewable energy, solar or wind, if a precedent like this is set. And a town. This project went before the town of Falmouth. It was developed over 9 years. Went before town meeting 7 different times. And so, if the town says yes, and then suddenly they say no, we're going to take it down, then that sets a precedent. That
Well, Eleanor, I mean, the issue itself, I mean, there was these 2 studies that were recently done that said they couldn't find anything that was directly coming off of the turbine that could be causing these problems, inner ear or otherwise. And basically the study said, it's kind of my shorthand, that it was psychosymptomatic, that it wasn't real. Are the problems real?
People don't leave their homes on psychosomatic issues. These people are depleting their savings. They have children who are now doing poorly in school. They are leaving their jobs because they can't be working, because they can't sleep. They have chronic sleeplessness. These are all things that are not psychosomatic. They're actually having the experiences. So the experiences prove the point over and over and over again. There are a number of peer-reviewed studies now that have shown causality between, or I should say association between, wind turbines and health effects. And in fact, what you're seeing here in Falmouth is that people are having health effects.
Okay. You don't oppose all wind turbines,
That's
do you?
correct.
Not all.
No, we don't.
You just when they're in neighborhoods like this.
Yeah, there are places, for example, Williamstone and Otis, which is an already industrialized area. They have already degraded area. They have a wind turbine there. That makes a lot of sense. But when you put wind turbines too close to people's homes, we are seeing this not just in Massachusetts, but all over the world. People suffer. And so what is Falmouth going to do about that?
Okay.
And
well, so Megan, when you say a small vocal minority, these are the people that are being affected. I mean,
Sure.
That sounds kind of cold.
Well,
it's like,
Well, I'm looking at the map. There's a map that was that's available on the town's website. That show, within a half mile of the turbines, the number of homes that have been lodging complaints. And I would just like to make a point. You mentioned sleeplessness. The town of Falmouth has turned off the turbines from 7 in the evening until 7 a.m. Since last May, so May of 2012, to address the sleep issues. So, there has been some efforts to try and rectify some of these issues.
Well, what about doing things like buying out the neighbors? If this couple of Hobarts, they just abandon their home, they can't sell it. What about if the town came forward and said, all right, well, because, I mean, that thing is looming over their house, and it's but ugly, too. I mean, it's like, there it is. It's like, it's part of their landscape now.
Sure, but actually, I mean, that's your interpretation of it being ugly. But, there are certain people, you look at Hull, there's a home that's about 600 feet from the capped landfill and their large wind turbine, and the guy bought it because he wanted to be close to the turbine. There are people who do like that, I would say that, sound is very subjective. The aesthetics of this, of the project are also very subjective. And
well, I mean, putting it in a field where it's just doing its job as opposed to making it part of somebody's landscape.
Sure, but let me also make a point, because you made the point about where appropriate siting is. So you put wind where there's good resource, obviously, like solar. You wouldn't put a solar panel on the north side of a roof under a tree, which, you want to be able to actually leverage the natural resource. This turbine project, both Wind 1 and Wind 2, is sited at the wastewater treatment facility. It is the largest public use zoned piece of municipally owned property.
And there are homes around it.
There are.
People are suffering. And whether it's 2 houses or 25 houses or 50 houses, it has to be addressed, because what's going to happen...
So you support taking the 2 town turbines down?
Yeah, in fact,
I mean, the Hobarts live next to the one that's privately developed. Is there any way to address that one as well?
Well, first let's deal with the 2 town-owned turbines. So there is a solution. There's a vote coming up by the town meeting. Take the turbines down. This has been supported by the Finance Committee, by the Select Board. Take the turbines down. Go to the state legislature. There is a piece of legislation right now which would help to pay for the decommissioning of those turbines. Representative Vieira, 2957, support it.
And put them up somewhere else?
And take them down and put solar panels. There's a large property, just as Megan said, there's a large property. Put in solar panels. Bring the community back together, because right now it's a divided community. It will continue to be.
That they could be put that wouldn't be disruptive to...
The capped landfill is one of the places where the PV panels could go. However, we have about a 10-year waiting period before that space can be utilized. I would also just like to go back to the point of siting, is that the project has a 4-lane highway that goes through it. It's adjacent to a technology park and a quarry. and the capped landfill. So there's a lot of, and the residential area, the neighborhood there is agriculturally zoned. So, there are a lot of different things that could happen in that neighborhood that it's zoned for.
Should this be put to an entire town vote? Because it could go, depending on what the selectmen do, it could go.
That's actually the plan, regardless.
I think that's what will happen.
And what will happen if it goes to a full town vote?
Well, one of the things that we have to stop doing is fear-mongering about how is the town going to pay it back. Because what's happening is people are afraid of the costs, legitimately afraid, that they're going to be picking up all these costs. The fact is that the state has a huge,
is a lot.
the state has a huge fund which is already collected from penalties on utilities. It's about $200 million. Let's use that money and a small portion of it and take them down. The reality is if the governor wants to put wind turbines up, having problems like Falmouth, Fester, or Situate, or Fairhaven is not going to solve his issue, and it's not going to bring people together to say, let's have wind turbines.
All right, we're going to be following this over the next couple of weeks as Falmouth decides what to do. Megan Amsler and Eleanor Tillinghast, thank you so much.
Thanks very much.